Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. This is Jenny Parks at MEC, the Midwestern Higher Education Compact, and I am so excited that you are here with us and that you are taking this journey with us as we explore this fall OER, Open Educational Resources for use with career and technical education courses and programs, and the institutions where those types of programs and courses are offered, namely community colleges most of the time. And so, of course, our first webinar of the season is with CCCOER, which is the Community College Consortium for Open Educational Resources. And they are a division or a unit, whatever you want to call it, of Open Ed Global. And I think they have a tremendous amount of information they're going to be sharing with you today. So thank you for being with us. And we'll give you a few reminders here. There are slides available as an attachment in the GoToMeeting little resource area that you have in your control panel. And we will be recording the webinar and posting it to our YouTube channel. As we are going through the webinar, please use the chat box to submit questions. I'll be monitoring them as our presenters are talking to you, and I will jump in with questions or give them to them when they pause for questions. And then at the end, you will be receiving a survey so that we can get some feedback on how we did and how to improve OER webinars in the future and just next service to you. So I am showing that it is 1 o'clock. So let's get going. Next slide, please. That's me. Like I said, Jenny Parks at MEC. Next, please. So the name of our webinar today is Reducing Equity Gaps and Creating Resilience with Open Education, which is an amazing topic to be dealing with right now as we all navigate our way through the COVID-19 crisis. So I will introduce briefly. Here are our two presenters. It's Una Daly from CCCOER and Denise Cote from the College of DuPage. I will let them each give you a little bit more information about their work and themselves. And then again, I'll just start monitoring the chat. All right, ladies, take it away.
All right. Denise, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hi, I'm Denise Cote. I am a librarian and a professor at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. The College of DuPage is a very large single campus community college. It's the second largest institution in the state. We have about, I think the numbers are about 16,000 FTE right now, but I've been at COD for 21 years, unbelievably. And I've been recently assigned to focus all of my energy on open educational resources and open pedagogy at the college. So I'm really happy to be here.
Great, and I am thrilled to be here with you folks from the Midwest Higher Ed Compact, and to be with Denise Cote, who is a longtime member of CCCOER, which is the Community College Consortium for OER, and leads a number of our efforts, and she'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. I have been the director for about 8 years now, and we're a national consortium working with community and technical colleges primarily to promote open education resources, policies in order to give faculty choices and to promote student success. So thank you. Next slide, please. And we'd like to invite you to share in the chat window, if you can, where you're from. We always love to know who we're talking with.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. All right, so we're through the introductions. We'd like to talk to you a little bit about equity and open education and why they're such a good fit together and why it's such a synergistic view. And then Denise is going to give you a laser eye view of what's going on at College of DuPage around implementing OER in order to reduce equity gaps and create resilience. And she's got some really exciting stuff to tell you. And then we want to talk a little bit about our Regional Leaders of Open Education, which is an effort that's just a little over a year in process, and how that might be something you might want to get involved in as well. And Denise will tell you more about the OER policy and strategy group that's within there. And then we want you to see if you'd like to join some of our conversations online in the future after today. So next slide, please. So I mentioned that CCCOER is a community of practice for open education. We've been around for over 10 years. And once again, we're about supporting faculty in their work so that they can help students be successful, which is, I know, what faculty want. We have started to work more closely on regional leadership as we realize the importance of that work in the open space in terms of supporting statewide and national efforts. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, about some of the wonderful things that our U.S. Department of Ed is doing to support this work. And we are part of Open Education Global, which is a worldwide organization with members in 40 countries, with a focus on both higher ed and also K through 12. And so we're really excited. K through 12 is something we added last year, but they're such a great fit, particularly with community colleges in K through 12. Next slide, please. All right, so we are excited to have many members in the Midwestern Higher Ed Compact space, both, of course, in Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Michigan, Minnesota, North Dakota, Ohio, and 6 of the Wisconsin technical colleges are members. And I wanted to let Denise say something about what it's been like to be a member.
I'd be happy to do that. So the College DuPage was the very first community college in Illinois, and then the college that joined, and then the College of Lake County joined. I would like all of the community colleges to join. It's such a great organization, and it helped me so much because I had a community of community college people that, you know, had done great stuff or was, you know, just getting started like me. And Una is an incredible resource. She came to 2 little conferences that we had at COD. And wow, it's just so worth the time and, you know, the small membership fee. It's just, and they do these incredible webinars like every week, and the website is just full of information. And of course you can go there if you're not a member, but I think Illinois should have all the members, everybody.
Well, we'd love to have a statewide membership for Illinois too, because we have memberships that
it's a great community of practice. It really is.
Are affordable from a state point of view. Yeah, I would love to say we have weekly webinars. We actually have monthly webinars, but they're education leaders from both 4-year colleges and 2-year colleges. In fact, we had one last week on decolonizing the course. And this is about bringing equity into your course. And we had over 150 folks join us for that webinar. And I can't tell you how many people have emailed me and said that was an amazing webinar. We had folks talking about how to make your syllabus more inviting to students from every walk of life, and how to use diverse images in your instructional materials so that students see themselves represented in the instructional materials. And just we had some wonderful speakers, and we record all of these and they're available on our website. Yes, I think next slide, Everett. So I don't know how many folks are from community colleges, so I always like to just start with who are our students? They look a little different from the students at the 4-year university, at least the entering students. We hope that our community college students will continue and go on to 4-year colleges and universities to complete their bachelor's. But the average age is 28, so it's a little older, a little more mature student. 62% are working while enrolled full-time. So they've got a lot going on in their lives. And of course, some are parents as well. They have families. 20% are students with disabilities. And you'll find that the community and technical college space has the highest number of enrolled students with disabilities. So that's something also that we take really seriously, is making sure that instructional materials are available to all of those students. We have a very diverse population of students, over 50%. First generation, nearly 30%. So our students are have a lot. They're very rich in terms of diversity, but it does mean that we need to give them extra services. Next slide, please. So I imagine many of you have seen a slide like this, and if not, I'd love to explain it. This is a slide that is showing the price of textbooks, college textbooks in particular, and in relation actually to other books in the market, and how it has increased over the last 20 years approximately. And it's almost 200% increase for textbooks during this time period. And if you compare it to other consumer price indexed items, it's closer to, it is just about at the same level as hospital care has gone up. So this has had a huge impact on our students and being able to afford their textbooks. So we want to ask you a question about how this, how you think this has affected students. And so the question is, and I think you can answer this in a poll, according to national surveys, what % of students don't purchase textbooks due to cost? And A is 20%, 40%, 60%, or 75%. We need one of those little tick, 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 tick. A little music.
Sing the Jeopardy song.
Exactly.
I'll give you 10 more seconds. This is Everett. I'm in the background.
Okay, yeah.
So
Denise,
this is your last call.
We're showing our age here.
All right, we're good.
All right, excellent. Okay. Oh my gosh, we got ringers here. Yes, very good. It is approximately 60%, which 47% of you identified. So yes, so it's a large portion of our students, which of course is worrisome, but in fact, we're worried if any of our students can't afford it. This is a national survey from the Florida Virtual Campus. They've been doing this since 2012, and this is the 4th time they went out to their students in 2018 actually and asked these questions. So how many don't purchase textbooks? So their number was 64%. If you look at other national surveys, such as published by the Student US PIRGs group, you'll see approximately the same numbers. This has been fairly consistent. But what's even more worrisome is that 35% of the students feel that they did they earned a poor grade or failed because they tried to take the class without a textbook. And if you look even deeper, is students are taking other classes which may not lead to their graduation, or they drop a class. So we know that this is affecting their success and completion rates, which of course is very important to our institutions as well. Next slide, please. So one thing that we used to say, those of us who are faculty or former faculty, was students should be prepared when they come to class. They should know that they have to buy a textbook, and it's really their fault that they're coming to school without that textbook and doing poorly. Well, I'm thankful that we have changed that attitude, and we see now this as an institutional responsibility to make sure that all of our students have access to the instructional materials. And I've talked to many students at the community college, and they tell me that they attend part-time because they can't afford the textbooks and to take the classes full-time. So we know that it's not only making them go slower, and in some cases to get very poor grades when they try to do it without. Next slide, please. Something that I think many of you are aware of, particularly those of you who are on campus, where there's food pantries, etc. Campus basic needs insecurity trends are at the highest level ever, and this is before the pandemic hit. The Hope Center at Temple University surveys students around the country. And in 2019, they published this report based on 167,000 students at 171 two-year colleges and 56 four-year institutions. 39% reported that they were food insecure in the last 30 days. Hence, many of our community colleges and also our state universities are providing food pantries for our students so that they can survive during these difficult times. Of course, with campuses closed right now, that is very difficult. And many report housing insecurity. In fact, 17% of the students respondents reported they were homeless in the last year. So, you know, as a faculty member or staff at a college or university, you can imagine what the impact is on a student who's trying to take classes and who's homeless. Very, very challenging. All right, next slide, please. So, what happened in March of this year? Well, the pandemic hit, and of course, all of our campuses had to close physically. But our institutions, our faculty, our staff all really rose to the occasion, and everything was moved online. But many students hadn't taken online classes before, and many faculty hadn't taught online before. So it was extremely challenging, and our institutions had to do this within a, you know, generally a 1 to 2 week period. And so let's go to the next slide, where I think we're going to ask you about a question which really surprised me when I read this report from this survey. What % of students had to buy a computer or laptop in order to take their online classes this last spring? And the options are 12%, 23%, 44%, or 56%. Fun numbers. Okay, wonderful. So actually, the survey that we, this national survey that was performed found that 44% of students had to buy a computer in order to take their online classes. But I hear you that 56% of you thought it might be even higher. And I'm not absolutely sure if some of the students were using their phones, their smartphones instead, but 44% had to buy computers, and a similar number reported that they had to buy other equipment such as microphones or headphones or even software that was now required in order to be tested. So huge impact on students. 66% reported that it was a significant cost for them to continue their classes. And when this was disaggregated, Black students reported that at a higher rate, at 77%. So we know that this is having a disproportionate impact on students of color. The other question they asked, and this question was just asked in August, this particular survey question is, are you finding re-enrolling this fall challenging? 37% reported re-enrolling, it was going to be very challenging for them this fall. So affecting our enrollment numbers at our institution and obviously impacting students' ability to complete. For the Hispanic and Latinx students, 45% reported that it was going to be challenging. So we also see another disproportionate impact here. 61% reported they were unlikely to re-enroll if online course fees were active this fall. So in certain states and districts, they charge an online course fee if you take your classes online. But in the spring, of course, that was that wasn't in effect because students were taken by surprise, and so were the institutions. But in fact, that is a normal process in certain states. So this is really students saying that is going to affect me. That is going to make me unlikely to be able to continue my studies. And of course, there were many job losses for students. So a small slice of what those impacts have been on our students. Next slide. Now I want to turn it over to Denise to talk about how the institutions are responding.
So institutions respond in a variety of ways, and we've been doing this before the pandemic to try to relieve some of the burden of cost on students. So some colleges, through their bookstores, push rentals of textbooks, so it's much more affordable. They could rent a paper book, or they could rent the access code, but they only get it for a semester. So they don't have access to their materials after the course is over. And if they unfortunately don't do well in the course, they have to rent the book again. We have an arrangement at our school with math where they can rent that big package, My Math Lab or whatever it is. And if they fail in one semester, if they take the class again in the next semester, they don't have to pay the rental again. But, assuming that the students are going to fail and, having to make that arrangement is pretty tough. They should have access to something that's really a core reference source for them through their math career, that basic math book. But, and then they do other things like vouchers. So some institutions will give the students, especially those on Pell Grants, they will give them their textbooks, and then the Pell Grant fund, when the money comes in, the bookstore gets paid back. At our institution, we negotiated as part of our contract with our bookstore that they would give a certain number of gift cards to students. And this is completely unmediated by the faculty member. The student just goes to the financial aid office and declares their need. And then the bookstore, the financial aid office creates a gift card for them that they can take to our bookstore. But that's a small amount of money in the grand scheme of what we actually spend in our bookstore every semester. There's also foundation funds. So some institutions have kind of like scholarships that students can apply for before the semester starts to support them. Like our institution has a couple of different kind of scholarship-like programs where through our foundation, where the student can get up to $500 to support buying their course resources. And of course, there's always open educational resources. And, we talk about OER like it's new, but it's been around for 10 years at least. And a lot of colleges are leveraging some of that. There's textbooks, there's open courses, there's of course the open access journals and monographs and data. And, that's tough because we're, constantly searching for just the right thing. And then there's this new player on the scene. This one's called the inclusive access model or automated student billing. So what this is, and I'm sure all of you have heard about it, the publisher or the vendor, in our case at COD, it was our bookstore. They're a big national company. They make an arrangement with a program or a discipline or with the whole school where the student is provided with all of their course materials for a semester, and they're charged for those materials as part of their tuition. So this causes all sorts of issues. First, the student has to opt out. They're automatically opted in. And then you have to create contract language around that. And then the students in courses or in programs that are a little bit cheaper, let's say English, are subsidizing the students that are in engineering because everybody pays the same cost. This is the way it was presented to us at COD. There's a lot of different models for that. But also another thing, student data is the way they use the materials, what they buy, and how often they access them, and all kinds of data points are being collected by a non-college entity. So the college has to put privacy standards into place to try to protect their students' privacy and also get that data. So the data might not be provided unless you negotiate for that data. And another huge issue with this is that, we're entering into a contract and we're also making our students participate in a marketplace over which they have very little control. So it's similar to the textbook marketplace, and we've all heard this before, that we tell our students what to buy. So, we tell them, you have to buy this $385 textbook that you can't afford in order to be successful in this class. And they don't really have a choice. It's kind of like being told what car to buy. And especially our students on Pell Grants and other federal funds, they're not allowed to shop around. They have to buy at our bookstores. So we can go to the next slide. So I covered this a little bit already. The contracts are a problem. The student data is an issue. With open educational resources, we are allowed to provide low cost or free options for our students. It's another thing with rentals and these inclusive access models. They have to pay to print their own stuff, and we could provide printing services for them. They have access to their materials forever. So I have 2 textbooks that I used in my undergrad 800 years ago, and they're sitting in my living room right now because I still look at them. And they don't own it. They don't own that knowledge, and that puts them in an unfair position, and it also dissuades them from learning further. So you can go to the next slide. So I've already kind of said some of this stuff, but the way that we looked at it, this is from the Achieving the Dream. This was a study of like 38 colleges that are in the Achieving the Dream program. The way that we looked at it at COD was very similar to this. We're really interested in enrollment and tuition benefits. So if the student is saving $200 on a textbook in one course, they might, like one of our 3 credit hour classes is like $400. They could find another $200 and take another class. We're really interested in our students finishing faster. We all know that we say it's a 2-year associate's degree, but it takes students at least 3 years to complete it. So it makes taking an associate's degree more attractive if they can get through it quicker. Students in 4-year schools, we know that a bachelor's degree does not take 4 years most of the time. It takes 5 or 6 years. And we were interested in increasing enrollment through making college more affordable, and that's just sensible. We're also very interested in, and I sell it as the day one access. So every student in a class has access to all the materials, the instructor and the course, and they all start out on the same foot. So that's very appealing to the people that I work with. Our college is in a district that has a very broad socioeconomic demographic. So some students are very financially capable and others are not. So every student starts out in the same place. And I also talk about, like, this isn't just about students that don't have money. A student that has money still shouldn't be forced to buy a $300 textbook that isn't as high quality as it should be, or everybody should just have the same starting point. And the faculty that are involved, it's so exciting because they own these materials too. They love OER, the ones that are using it, because they can update it on the fly. Like, let's say you're teaching an American government class and you're using a textbook that was published last year. So much has happened since last year. So they can add in like really up to the minute stuff. Or if there's a research study that's changed the way that the instructor or the field is thinking about a particular thing, say in psychology, they can add that on the fly. And they own the materials, they're their baby. And they really love working with students to develop the texts and to develop tests and using open pedagogical models for teaching. So changing the way they teach is really exciting. And then recouping the cost of development. So at the College DuPage, we just started this last year. We probably spent like $150,000 for faculty grants, which I'll talk about in a second, a little bit more. But for that investment, at the end of next spring, we will have saved our students $1.1 million. So that's a pretty good return on investment, I think. Next slide. So at the College DuPage, just getting really local for you, Illinois does not have any state legislation or any appropriations yet. I'm working on that. So what we've done at COD, and of course we are a fortunate institution. We do have some funds to put towards things like this. And so what we're doing is we're providing grants in the form of either reassigned time or stipends for our faculty to develop and adopt OER. We also bought a publishing platform called Pressbooks. It was a big hurdle in the beginning because the faculty didn't know where, what does this thing look like? I'm going to write this, but what am I doing? I'm going to just have it in Word. Am I going to put it in Google Docs? What's the deal? So we bought access to Pressbooks, and it's a book publishing tool. It's really slick. It's really easy to use. And our faculty are using it, but our other college departments are interested in using it too. So like to publish college handbooks and things like that. And that makes it, instead of just putting out a PDF that is not accessible to all of our students, so we're really interested in accessibility. Pressbooks puts out formats that are accessible for all students, for screen readers and things like that. We're also providing training. I am providing training. And the provost has just recently given me a full release to work on this for a semester and hopefully longer. And so yeah, that the personnel piece is really critical, to have a person that's just dedicated to this, that can work with faculty and sell it and help the faculty develop materials. And my being a librarian is a benefit because, with searching. And we also have, if I might talk a little bit about something a little different, we also have a zero cost kind of project where the instructor can choose library materials. So we call that zero cost because it's zero cost to students, but the institution has already paid for the library materials. So what we do is we try to make one-to-one matches because OER isn't available in all disciplines, and especially those very specialized disciplines. So there might be ebooks that we can make available by buying an unlimited license or a nonlinear license, or these new DRM free licenses. So just as an aside, we're doing that too. So another thing that's important to us, since we're such a large institution, we want to collaborate with other schools and talk to our lawmakers about state policy. So I started this work, and go to the next slide. So, the state of the state, I'm just really interested in state legislation that can help institutions and help us all come together through law. And so we had a summit in 2018. It feels like so long ago and yesterday at the same time. Maybe some of you were there. It was great. We invited leaders from community colleges in our state. 200 people attended. Our Senator Dick Durbin came via video to introduce to open the conference for us. And we talked about, strategies and what was important to us and how we could make this real at the state level. And, you know, just all of the outreach and collaboration that happened as a part of that was great. And then I personally just went around to lawmakers, you know, just called them up and said, you know, will you talk to me about this? And I was just flying blind and, you know, kind of just hoping that they'd be interested. And of course they were. So we have a couple of lawmakers that I talked to introduce some draft legislation that I am watching with great interest. But since COVID, our state lawmakers are obviously focused on the pandemic, but life does go on, and some of them are working on higher ed, and I'm going to be meeting with more of them this week. So just keeping higher ed and textbook affordability in their minds is really, really important. It was really difficult in the beginning to figure out how to talk to them. So like Spark, the Spark organization, which I'm sure most of you are aware of, they have some really wonderful tools for lobbying lawmakers, or persuading lawmakers. They're the state policy tracker where they keep track of all the legislation around open education that's happening in the United States, in every state. And they also have a state policy playbook, which was really great, that I could just a really slick 20-page thing that I could hand them and go over some of the points with them. And that really helped. But it would have been more useful to me to be able to find the legislation and all of the things that go with it. Like if there was an appropriation, how was that spent in Iowa, or how was it spent in Oregon? So, and also to get that competitive thing going, you know, so Iowa's doing something, why isn't Illinois? So, so that kind of leads us to the next topic. So you can go to the next slide, there you go. And that's Una.
Well, thank you, Denise. That it's really impressive what they've done at College of DuPage, and Denise is the leader of that. And it's so inspiring to hear about the savings that they will achieve this year. So as a CCCOER and the idea of open education has become a real possibility for institutions to make to have that impact on students, to help them to be successful, to complete sooner, to do better in their courses. We realized that there was really a need for regional leadership around this. And of course, the Department of Ed has also seen that as a need as well. So last fall, we started our Regional Leaders of Open Education initiative. And we thank the Hewlett Foundation for helping to support that. So we invited colleges, universities, library consortia, and government agencies to participate in this work, to collaborate on policies, sustainability, stewardship of resources, and the professionalism around open education. We really see that open education is kind of where online education was in the early 2000s. It's a profession that's emerging, and there's many roles that can be played. Of course, the library is a critical role. But faculty are as well. If faculty don't adopt the open educational resources and help to adapt or even create them, this isn't going to happen. And there's many other roles around instructional design, administrator roles in supporting these programs. And so it's been wonderful to work with states just around the country. As you saw earlier, we have members in 35 states, but we've got folks participating in this Regional Leaders of Open Education project from around the country. And so there's no restriction at all. And we'd be happy to share more about that. And I'm so pleased that Denise is leading our policy and strategy project. And she's going to tell you about that and a little bit about the other projects that are going on at the same time.
Keep turning my camera on and off. Okay, so if you can go to the next slide. Thank you, Everett. Okay, so there's 4 projects. The one that I am kind of wrangling with 25 other people who are working in open ed in states across the country. As I said earlier, it was really difficult to find what other people were doing, what was happening in other states. And, just kind of Googling all the time and, reaching out to people. And then I came across, and, you guys may have heard of this too. It's called the OER World Map Policy Registry. So this is an international tool. So if you wanted to click on that link, maybe we can take a look at it. So what we're interested in is collecting policies and procedures and guidelines that address the implementation of state legislation. So where we started was with all of the states that would participate, and I'm going to get more, to start at legislation that has appropriations or other kinds of directives from the state level. So if you go down a little bit, Everett, I'm sorry, I wish I could be running the show here. If you go into the registry, or I'm sorry, go into statistics. So what this does, the open policy map, it has material that has policies, it has legislation, it has guidelines, it has programs, grant things. It's just a huge database of materials around open educational practices and administration from around the country. So if you see, if you go down a little bit, Everett, if you go to that, this thing. You can see that the United States only has 107 entries in this database. So what I've done, and what I'm working with my group to do, is to add 4 or 5 states, all of their documents, starting with legislation, as I said, and everything that came away from that legislation. So like, for instance, the state of Colorado, they have an appropriation through their Senate bill. And so what we did was we put in all of the program documents and attached them to that bill. So you can see where the bill started and then what it funded. So you can go into the registry and see like an entire kind of landscape analysis of what's happening in a state. And I know that states publish landscape analyses. The first time you go in it's going to want you to, you can skip. So for instance, there's some here, like if you go into Colorado Rises, maybe these entries are not entirely complete, but it'll tell you what the policy type, it tells you the educational sector, who it was published by, what it's based on, and then if you go down a little bit, and then what it's the basis for. So it's a landscape analysis, but it also gives you the actual documents. The actual documents, those working documents, are so difficult to find. And it's really so necessary for people that are trying to lead at the state to show exactly what happens with the appropriations and what work goes into an OER program that's funded at the state level. And then how it trickles down to institutions. So the next part of this project will be institutions putting in their documentation. So we all see landscape analyses from states, but they're usually narrative based, and they talk about what they did, but they don't show us how they did it. So these documents, I'm really focused on getting those working documents, like calls for proposals and workshops that they may have funded or conferences that were funded and how those things were planned. So we have Colorado as a pilot state, and we have Texas has volunteered their documents as a pilot state. The great state of North Dakota, I'll be working with them to put their documents in, and I'm hoping that we'll get Oregon. So we'll have some mature states that have mature programs that have a lot of documentation to fill this out and to fill out this database. And hopefully it'll be a very good place for people to get started and something that we will keep up to date. And I like the idea that it's global, because we're working on this in the world and people are doing incredible things in other countries that we could learn from, and they can learn from us. So I work closely with the Policy World Map people. They're in, there's a guy in Germany, there's a woman in Spain, there's someone in Italy, There's someone in London, and it's incredible to work with these people and to participate at a global level like this. So next slide, I think there might be a poll question. Maybe. Yes. This one's easy. Should take 2 seconds. I feel like I should be singing or talking or something in this silence, but I'm not going to. I'll spare you.
I think maybe about 10 more seconds.
Okay.
If anyone wants to get in their vote right at the last minute, I'm going to close it about now.
So 92% say no. The 8%, if you would be interested in participating in this project, please contact me. I will help you put your documents in. I'm trying to get as many states as possible. We're hoping, to get 10 states. I would love that, but, I'm focusing on 4 right now. For those of you that said no, the Open Policy World Map, the Policy Hub, will be a great resource for you, I hope, and would love feedback on the project if you think it's a good idea. I really can't see the chat and I don't know who's here, but so yeah. Okay, so you can go to the next slide. So that's my project. The Professionalism Group, wow, they're just, it's Quill West from Pierce College, and she's just a force of nature. So what they're working on is what are the roles for people? So like they're gathering job descriptions and how to train somebody and how you would hire someone, what skills and knowledge you need to be an open educator, how to lead in this area. And then what training's available. So they created this big matrix, and wow, it's just really useful. And like looking at it going, wow, I need to like learn a whole bunch more stuff when I was looking at those materials. Let's go to the next slide. So the stewardship people, this is led by James Glapa-Grossklag, and I hope I pronounce his name right. I'm glad he's not here because I probably just messed it up. But anyway, there's this thing called the CARE framework, and a lot of you might be aware of it. What they're doing is they're working with the original authors of the CARE framework, which is about stewardship. So how you contribute, how you attribute things, how you empower people, and how you release things to the world, where they're going to add some stuff. So they're adding, people are very concerned about data, student data, and consent by our students to take their data. They focus on labor issues, which is a big thing in higher education. Who produces and who consumes OER, who actually owns open material, and then providing examples in practice. So that's really exciting and almost above my head, and I'm really looking forward to learning more from that group. And so you can go to the next slide. And the sustainability group, this is led by Amy Hoffer, who is a librarian, and she leads the Oregon project. They have a very mature project, so they're looking to the future and how to keep OER programs sustainable. So it's, all well and good for me to say, oh, well, let's just give a bunch of grants and, get a bunch of materials out there. But, the sustainability of the program, what it's going to look like 5 years from now is extremely important. We're spending college funds, and we want to make sure that it keeps going. So they are collecting examples of practices, processes, workflows, and they're going to write a white paper, which I'm looking forward to reading, and then they'll share that widely. and they're aligning themselves with SUNY, the SUNY framework, and SUNY has a very mature program. They have a publishing arm. They're very active in that state, in the SUNY system. So they're kind of modeling their white paper and all of their research on the SUNY OER sustainability framework. And they're amazing. Next slide. Okay, this is Una. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Denise. And actually, if you're interested in those projects and want to hear more about them, there'll be some options at some upcoming conferences in November to hear more about that. So I wanted to ask you how the Department of Ed has stepped up and done some really great work over the last few years. And the program is called the Open Textbook Pilot. And I was wondering if you knew how many dollars the U.S. government has allocated over the last 3 years for the Open Textbook Pilot Program. And no fair Vince answering, because I saw that Vince Vince from Chippewa Valley is here, and he and his college were one of the recipients of this last year. So I got 5 million, 10 million, 17, 50 million.
And here I am with the traditional 10-second warning. So about 5 more. Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Everett. Okay, oh geez, I tell you, this audience is pretty sophisticated. You are absolutely correct. It's $17 million has been allocated so far. And if we can switch to the slide as my visual aid, I want to talk to you a little bit about who's received it in the past and what is what's the open period right now. We switch back to the slides, Everett.
There he goes.
All right. So in 2018, the libratext platform, which is a platform for open textbooks, got the initial allocation, and they're doing great work. And they have 11 different libraries, which are discipline-based, including a new one that they've added for workforce. And so what that provides, in addition to a repository, is actually a platform for developing your textbooks for your courses. And creating an account is free. You just go to that website and you can create an account. And then this platform allows you to move around chapters within a book, add new chapters, or create a brand new book if that's what you desire. But there's lots and lots of great resources there. But last year, the allocation was split between 2 wonderful projects. One is the Open RN program out of Chippewa Valley in Wisconsin. And I'll say a little bit about that program, and then I welcome Vince if he can turn on his mic. They're producing 5 open textbooks for the RN program at the Wisconsin Technical College system. And so a number of the colleges within the Wisconsin system are developing them. They will all use these open textbooks. And the first one was released this spring on pharmacology. And of course, nursing is an area where the textbooks are very expensive for students. And so it's just an amazing project. Vince, can you speak up and talk a little bit more about the work? It may be that Vince can't. Maybe he can type something in the chat. So Vince is the librarian at Chippewa Valley College. And Vince, I always have a tough time with your last name, so I don't want to butcher it. Kim Ernstemeyer is the director of nursing there at Chippewa Valley, and she's the lead on the project. And just doing an amazing job. And they come and they're members of CCCOER, and they've been reporting on the wonderful work they're doing. And nursing is just, the OER space is really taking off, and Chippewa Valley is one of the leaders of that. I also wanted to mention, for some of those of you who might not be aware of it, the U.S. Department of Education has an open licensing requirement that was passed in 2018. So almost all competitive grants that are issued through the Department of Ed are required to have an open licensing on the materials produced by the grant. So this is wonderful support, which allows not only the recipients of the grants to share their materials, but also those who didn't receive the grants can also use those materials. So it's really a wonderful support system. And as of last week, the Department of Ed announced the 2020 open textbook pilot application period, and it will be open through the middle of November. And this year it's $7 million. And they're hoping to actually split it down into more than just 1 or 2 applicants. So it's really exciting that the Department of Ed is supporting that. And Denise, would you like to add something?
Yeah, they're doing, they've added like consortia and smaller groups, you know, because it was a bummer in the beginning because it was like one institution got it and then the next year just, you know, 2, you know, big places. So the smallest grant is 500,000 and the largest is going to be 2 million. So this 7 million is going to be spread out over more people. And it's over 36 months. It was a longer period before. So, you know, work is going to happen a lot faster. So, you know, I'm hoping for, you know, CTE materials because those are so difficult to find. But they really focused on high enrollment and then institutions that serve a high minority population. Those are in their sites, and they also, you know, there's a lot of different points that you can get, but they leave it really open how you can define high enrollment and how you define minority serving. So Spark and other lobbying groups have done a really good job of trying to bring that down to a level where, you know, your average college could take advantage of it. And but the application period is short. It's like soon. So
well, it's actually longer this year than in past years.
It feels like it's tomorrow. You know, like if you really wanted to get together with a bunch of people and really figure it out, it feels like tomorrow. But yeah, hopefully something will happen in Illinois with that.
Oh, I certainly hope so too. And I didn't mention Arizona State University, but they are also doing work, and they're working also with their community colleges in that state, and it is career focused. So, there is
RN thing. Wow, the Open RN thing is amazing. I mean, it's just incredibly impressive.
Next
I
slide.
can't see the chat, and I don't know if you can, Una. I can't see the chat or who's here.
I can't either. And so I welcome Everett or Jenny or Mary to, you know, if there's questions that come up, please do stop us. I wanted to mention that this isn't just a US or just a North American effort, although we have a lot of work going on in North America around open education. But UNESCO, in their last plenary session, which was in November of 2019, created an OER recommendation roadmap. So this is all of the member institutions that participate in the UNESCO committee who supported this, and it's around creating sustainable models, inclusive and equitable access, capacity building, and policy. So it's nice to see that there's a very good synergy between what we're doing with regional leaders and what is happening at the global level. And my parent organization, the Open Education Global, is part of that effort at UNESCO. So stay tuned on that. There'll be more information. Next slide, please. I think we are running out of time. So at this point, we just wanted to say, you know, if this is compelling to you, there's a lot of us doing it, and there's a lot of support. The Midwestern Higher Ed Compact had a wonderful conference 2 years ago as well on this, and they've been supporting institutions in adopting OER. And CCCOER, of course, welcomes you. And if you want to participate in our regional leadership program, we would be so happy. And there's 2 conferences coming up in November that are both virtual and very inexpensive to attend. And you'll be able to hear some really wonderful stories there. And next slide, please. So before we talk about the conferences, I'll give you just a little bit of information about the CCCOER webinars. So we do have those monthly, and we have 3 more this fall, and you can go to that little bit.ly link and you can register for free. We invite the entire open education community to attend these, and would love to have you there. Next slide, please. So the Open Education Conference, this is the big North American Open Education Conference gone virtual this year. And the theme is reimagining open education. Their schedule will be posted in the next couple of weeks, but it's been very community driven, and it's going to be a great project. Conference to attend. It is $75 per registrant, and there are some opportunities to talk with them about scholarships if needed. And next slide, please. So the Open Education Global Conference is the week afterwards. So we have just this treasure trove in November. And it was originally scheduled to be in Taiwan because it's always one of the members of OE Global sponsors it. And occasionally, like every decade or so, it's in the US. But generally, it's someplace else, it's on another continent. And it was supposed to be in Taipei. Because we had to go virtual, we now have the conference still hosted by the University of Taiwan Medical, but because of the time zone differences, we now have co-hosts in the Netherlands at Technical University of Delft and also in Toronto at eCampus Ontario. And it's a very exciting conference. That one is $25 for members and $50 for non-members, and it'll be just like the Open Ed conference. It actually takes place over 5 days, and it has a different kind of events on different days of the week. So Tuesdays and Thursdays is going to be an opportunity to talk to some of the presenters, some of the keynote people, and attend workshops. And then the Monday, Wednesday, Friday are more of your regular conference type event. And once again, there's the link there if you'd like to register. And next slide. So thank you very much. If you would like to get involved in our discussions, please go to our website. You can pop in, and then you will receive announcements of events that are happening and national policy and state policy events that are coming up. Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Denise.
Well, thank you, ladies. Yes, please feel free to contact Denise, Una, or me with any of the questions that you have. We are at the 2 o'clock mark, and remember this will be recorded and that you have the slides available to you already, and that they will be available also on our website. Thank you all for being here, and I will just remind everyone that if you're excited about the Open RN project, we will be having them do a webinar for us, I believe on October 29th.
Ooh, good. Yeah, that'd be great.
So, yep, we have a lot more good stuff coming. Thanks, ladies.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thanks so much, Jenny, and all for inviting us.